Right friends, welcome back to English Comprehension and Vocabulary. This is the 33rd session, and before going ahead, I would like to tell you few points. As I have already announced, this will continue English vocabulary as it is, and some people are asking about the quantitative aptitude. In fact, I made entire schedule. In fact, that was announced through a small video also. Quantitative aptitude, I will concentrate after civil services preliminary examination scheduled for 3rd week of June. So, from June onwards, June 20th onwards, by September, I will concentrate solely on quantitative aptitude. I will finish that before you write IBPS PO preliminary examination. So, that time I specifically mentioned in my small video also. So, quantitative aptitude will be done from around 20th June right up to September, and that will be concentrated solely on that, because my program is tied up to almost June 15th because of civil services preliminary, and this English comprehension and vocabulary will continue as it is, and banking awareness we would like to add some more videos, and quantitative aptitude will be done during those 3-4 months. So, this we are going to do this year as far as banking services examination is concerned. And in this comprehension and vocabulary, if all of you agree, I would like to make small change. In fact, out of 5 days from Monday to Friday, I would like to concentrate 1 day on grammar, that is English grammar. That means how to understand the sentences, that I would like to introduce on Monday. I would like to introduce grammar, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday it will be comprehension and vocabulary as usual, and on Friday I would like to introduce banking awareness current affairs discussion at 12 noon. One day, that is Friday, I would like to introduce banking awareness current affairs discussion, because of the reason all of you might have viewed the modules pertaining to the banking awareness. We almost uploaded around 70-75 modules in various forms, and subsequently lot of things takes place, both the static as well as the dynamic, and we have to discuss those things. And in my opinion, this may be better for you. One is Monday, this English grammar, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday English comprehension and vocabulary, Friday banking awareness current affairs discussion at 12 o'clock. So, I would like to modify this if all of you agree, and please put forth your opinion. And as far as quantitative aptitude is concerned, I cannot do before June, it will be done 100% between June to September. So, this is our schedule. Similarly, for civil services examination also, I reiterated my schedule at 11 o'clock editorial discussion today, and we would like to go ahead with the scheduled plans, and this comprehension and vocabulary will be highly useful to you. But some students gave some advice. One student gave advice that instead of 5 days, please concentrate 1 day on English grammar. I am putting forth this proposal. And one student gave advice that here you are showing meanings in different slides. Instead of that, why can't you put the meanings of the slides in the same slide in SAT view? So, we are trying to incorporate that shortly. So, having learned this, let us go ahead with this passage. This is now to catch the sun. So, here this is Economic Times article of 7th March. This was written by Ashok Chunjunwala and Bhaskar Ramurthy. One of them is a professor of IIT Madras. And then tomorrow we are going to deliberate on business line editorial, that is Canada and beyond. This is with regard to the treaties, trade and investment treaties, right. So, tomorrow's discussion will be on business line editorial of 9th March. Today we are going to deliberate on now to catch the sun. In a nutshell, I will explain about this article. This is article, total article. Now, I will explain you in 5-6 points. The first point is, now the cost of solar power is reducing. Tomorrow, it may become cheaper than the energy produced by coal. Then the third point is, but the problem with solar power is it cannot be produced round the clock. It can be produced only daytime, that too during specified hours, but not all the days during the year. So, these are the drawbacks of solar power. Another drawback of solar power is it cannot be stored easily. Storage of this power is too costly. So, under these circumstances, the alternative suggested in the article is to go for large scale electric vehicles, because electric vehicles require to be charged, and once they are charged, they can be used subsequently. So, the article strongly stresses about the indigenous development of electric vehicles. Indigenous development. So, with our own technology, by our own people, with our own intellectual property rights, let us develop electric vehicles across the country so as to solve the problem of storage of solar power. So, this is the crux of the matter of this article, right. So, here more than the meanings, not many words are there, but please understand this passage, because the solar power is in the news in recent times quite often. Now, the recent tenders for setting up and operating solar and wind power generation farms show that the price of renewable energy is now approaching that from greenfield coal based power plants in India. Recent tenders for solar as well as wind power suggest that or show that the price of renewable power means the power like wind, like solar, that is renewable power. So, now the cost of solar power or wind power is approaching that from greenfield coal power based plants in our country. What is the difference of greenfield project, brownfield project? In economy, you come to know about these things. Greenfield project is when a project undertaken altogether at a new place. If the existing thing is modified or improved, that is the brownfield project. But if altogether at a new place anything is constructed, that is greenfield project. If you look at Hyderabad, that Begumpet airport was abandoned for civilian use and a new airport came up at Shamshabad. So, altogether new airport came up at Shamshabad in Hyderabad. So, that is example of greenfield project. But if you look at Chennai airport, the same location Meenambakkam airport is being upgraded. So, that is brownfield project. When some project is upgraded there itself with modern facilities, that is brownfield project. And if a project is coming all together at a new alignment, that is greenfield project. If you look at one example is Agra Lucknow Expressway, that is a greenfield project because it has followed altogether a new alignment. So, greenfield project is basically the project which is done in a fresh manner at a new location, and improving the existing project is brownfield project, right. So, in comparison to greenfield coal based power plants, the cost of solar power, wind power is reducing, and it is fast approaching the cost of power by coal. It will not take too long for solar photovoltaics. Photovoltaics, what is the meaning? Photovoltaics means basically conversion of light into electricity. Photovoltaic system basically uses solar panels. It directly converts sunlight into electricity without any moving parts. So, this is known as photovoltaic effect. So, here if you go back to the passage, it will not take too long for solar photovoltaics to become the cheapest source of power. So, in future, at present it is fast approaching coal based power plant cost. In future, it will not take much time to become solar energy cheapest source of power. if rates are further reduced, it will become cheapest source of power, but means he is entering into some problem. He is going to state something contrary to whatever he has stated now, but solar power is generated only during the day, that too intermittently, not continuous. Intermittently means only for some period of the year or some period of the day. Here during the day, that too intermittently means he is talking about during some part of the day. Similarly, wind power is generated during certain months and the power output also varies. Wind power is generated only during certain months and the power output also varies depending on the wind. If energy storage was inexpensive, one could have dealt with this intermittency by storing excess energy generated. What is the meaning of this sentence? If energy storage was inexpensive, one could have dealt with this intermittency by storing excess energy. So, if the energy storage is not costly, then what will happen? Then this entire excess energy can be stored whenever it is produced, but this energy storage was expensive. That is why it cannot be stored. So, please understand the meaning. Here, if energy storage was inexpensive, one could have dealt with this. If it is not costly, then it can be stored, but it is costly, so it cannot be stored. We have to think about alternatives, right. So, let us go back to the next paragraph. Since grid connected energy storage continues to be very expensive, grid connected, please look into this picture. The solar energy is connected to the grid. So, electricity generated from solar photovoltaic system is connected to the utility grid. It supplies the excess power. When excess power is there, then it takes power when power is not generated. So, once something is connected to the grid, it supplies the excess power beyond consumption to the utility grid. So, here this generator is there, that means this solar power system is there, and when it is producing excess power, that will be transmitted to the grid, that is grid connected. The meaning of grid connected is that since grid connected energy storage continues to be very expensive, he is talking about energy storage. Grid connected energy storage continues to be very expensive. Generated power needs to be consumed instantly. You see, you may require more power during some season, but during that season you may not have sunlight. You may require solar power during certain part of the day, but at that time you may not have sun. So, this is the paradox. So, here grid connected energy storage continues to be very expensive. Generated power needs to be consumed instantly, as the consumer demand for power also varies with the time of day and season. Winter we require more power and industry require more power during certain time, and there is a problem of matching demand to supply, both of which vary independently. The basic problem with the solar power or wind power is the supply and demand both cannot be matched. The supply will be during certain part of the day, certain part of the season, and the demand may be something else. That is what he want to convey through this passage. Then one option he is suggesting something would be to have excess capacity and get the non-renewable power generators which are under our control to back off when needed. So, he is suggesting about non-renewable power generators. However, this strategy has to be adopted judiciously by thinking all the pros and cons, as it will increase the cost of non-renewable power. So, here what will happen? Backup can be kept with some non-renewable power generators, but that has to be used judiciously. That means by applying your own brain, by looking at pros and cons, as it will increase the cost of non-renewable power. if some backup is used, it is quite okay, but it will increase the cost. So, what is meant by judiciously? That is using reason and good judgment in making the decisions, that is judiciously. Demand management, where the customer is incentivized to use more power when available and consume less when there is a shortage, will help and will indeed become necessary. Demand management. Demand management means, please look into this, demand management means this is the planning methodology used to predict, plan and manage the demand for goods and services. Here demand management, what he is suggesting is consumer will be incentivized. When excess power is there, consumer can use more. If power is not there, or you can say if power is less, then consumer can use less. So, that is some sort of demand management, but practically it may not be necessary. And here he is talking about will help and will indeed become necessary. That is, in fact, becomes necessary. Smart buildings and factories will take us towards implementation of demand management in time. So, the one of the solutions to the problem is demand management. Demand management is basically when more power is there, consume more. For that, incentivize the people and the factories, and when power is less, don't use much. Right. So, this is demand management, and in fact, it is necessary. Indeed means he is emphasizing on that, and you can say it is really or certainly. In that meaning also indeed is used. Indeed is normally used with these two types of meaning, or you can say one is to indicate really or certainly, and to add some extra information also. Indeed is used. Last week we discussed about this. Then incentive we discussed previously. Incentive means something to promote something, but what would really enable renewable power to become an unfettered dominant supplier is some kind of large scale storage. In the previous paragraph, he suggested something. He suggested incentivize the people through demand management. That is one solution, but the real problem lies in, or you can say, but the real solution lies in, real solution actually, not the problem. So, but what would really enable renewable power to become an unfettered dominant supplier is some kind of large scale storage. So, ultimately the solution for this, the solution for either solar power or wind power ultimately lies in large scale storage, but at present grid connected large storage is costly. But what is the solution? Here, to become an unfettered dominant supplier. So, this solar and wind powers to become unfettered dominant supplier is some kind of large scale storage. Unfettered means basically not limited by anything, not limited by either rules or any other controlling influence, is unfettered. One example is India should devise public health policy with the critical review of scientific evidence with open minds, unfettered by customs and dogma. Unfettered, that means not limited by rules or any other controlling influence, is unfettered. Right. So, here then, but what would really enable renewable power to become an unfettered dominant supplier, that means not limited by rules or not limited by something else, is some kind of large scale storage. In the previous paragraphs, he mentioned about various alternatives, but that is not the real solution. The real solution for using this solar power is the large scale storage, and that is possible only with large scale electric vehicles. Please look into this. The electric vehicle is precisely such an application where the cost of energy per kilometer, including the cost of its storage, has to be lower than the corresponding cost of a petroleum based vehicle to be economically viable. So, electric vehicle is the solution. Large scale electric vehicles is the need of the hour, and electric vehicles, the cost including its storage cost, must be lesser than at present petroleum based vehicles. So, the cost of electric power per kilometer including the cost of its storage for electric vehicles must be less than the petroleum based vehicles, so as to make it economically viable. Right. So, this is the meaning of this paragraph. Viable means likely to succeed, able to work, able to succeed. So, this is viable basically. So, here when oil prices goes below $50 per barrel, then extraction of shale oil becomes economically unviable. Viable is positive sense, unviable is negative sense. Viable is likely to succeed, unviable is not likely to be successful. So, here electric vehicles to be successful, here the cost must be less. For that he is suggesting something. EVs use distributed storage, this electric vehicles. So, this entire article is with regard to electric vehicles. He is suggesting various alternatives, whether to import electric vehicles technology or to indigenously develop electric vehicles technology, which will be useful. All these aspects he is looking at. So, here EVs use distributed storage. Growth of renewable energy in India thus has an electric vehicle compulsion. EVs use distributed storage because these vehicles are storing almost across the country, not at one place. These vehicles spread over the country. So, that is why electric vehicles use distributed storage. Growth of renewable energy in India thus has an EV compulsion. So, in India, if this renewable energy to grow, then it has to have electric vehicle consumption compulsion, as it requires EVs to grow in the country and provide the first large scale storage that the growth in renewables needs. So, renewables energy requires storage. At present, grid connected storage is costly. The viable solution is this electric vehicles. In energy terms, if all vehicles in India were electric today, they would use up 15 to 20% of India's electricity generated. So, what is the meaning of this sentence? If all the vehicles in India were electric today, they are not electric. So, please understand this. If I were the Prime Minister, I will give rupees 3 lakh to each and every citizen of the country. So, I am not the Prime Minister. If I were the Prime Minister means it sees hypothetically. So, here the meaning of this is, if all the vehicles in India were electric today, actually they are not electric vehicles. Please understand the meaning carefully. If all the vehicles in India were electric today, they would use up to 15 to 20% of India's electricity generated. They are not electric. If they are electric today, they will consume 15 to 20% of India's electricity generated. If their batteries are charged intelligently, if the storage in the batteries is intelligent, EVs, electric vehicles, could help overcome the intermittent nature of renewable power generation. So, if the batteries are charged intelligently, EVs could help overcome the intermittent nature of renewable power generation. Renewable power generation is basically intermittent. So, this problem can be overcome if the batteries can charge intelligently. Batteries in the sense, I am talking about electric vehicles. This entire paragraph is with regard to electric vehicles, but in electric vehicles in themselves, economically viable in India today, he is asking. But are electric vehicles in themselves economically viable in India today? The EV needs batteries to store energy needed for its operation. As battery prices fall steadily, and the efficiency of motors grows to deliver higher mileage per unit of energy, there is a crossover point when EVs with sufficient range per battery charge become a more cost effective option than diesel, petrol, CNG based vehicles. So, the meaning of this paragraph or this sentence is, he is asking a question whether EVs in themselves economically viable in India today, and he is suggesting also the EV needs batteries to store energy as battery prices fall steadily. When the battery prices fall steadily and at the same time the efficiency of motors grows to deliver higher mileage per unit of energy, when the efficiency of the motors increases. So, two things have to happen: batteries cost has to be reduced, then motors efficiency has to increase. Then if both these things happens, there is a crossover point. There is a crossover point when EVs with the sufficient range per battery charge become a more cost effective option at present. They are costlier than diesel, petrol, LPG. When batteries cost fall, at the same time motor efficiency increases, then what will happen? There will be crossover point. The costs will reduce. Crossover point means when this electric vehicles becomes cheaper than diesel, petrol or CNG based vehicles. That is the meaning of crossover point. For that to happen, the cost of the batteries should reduce, and at the same time motors efficiency must increase. Then left to itself, it may take 3 to 5 years for prices to fall enough in international markets for EVs configured for use abroad to emerge as a better alternative for consumers in India. So, if it is left as it is without anybody's intervention in the international market, their prices have to fall, and those are to be configured to suit Indian market. So, all these things may take anywhere around 3 to 5 years, right. So, this is the meaning of this paragraph. This however implies that India would be importing EV subsystems from the start if we assume that. So, in the previous paragraph what he has told, the newspaper article told that in the normal manner, if we wait for the international prices to fall and if we have to adopt in our country to suit our requirements after the international prices fell, then it will take anywhere between 3 to 5 years, and at the same time this analogy also implies that India would be importing EV subsystems from the start. India would be importing these EV subsystems from the start, and it will be difficult to establish any kind of technology leadership. And if we are importing from foreign countries, it would be difficult to establish any kind of technology leadership. We may later see local manufacturing of at least some of the subsystems. Nevertheless, there is the real possibility that the value of imports of EVs and EV subsystems will match the oil import bill today and leave us no better than today. So, here the meaning of this paragraph is, if we import electric vehicles systems from foreign countries, our import bill will increase and we will be in no better position as today, because we are importing almost 70 to 80% of our oil imports, and if we import this electric vehicles systems also, then we will be in the same position. At present we are paying for oil imports, tomorrow we will be paying for electric vehicles imports. So, this is not the solution, right. So, nevertheless means despite what has just been said or referred to, here you see nevertheless I used with two examples, you will be very clear in your mind. All of you are familiar with bitcoins. One example is, I know something about bitcoins, but his talk on the subject was interesting nevertheless. Then another example, the apartment complex is well guarded, but robberies occurring nevertheless, in spite of the guarding of the apartment complex, still robberies occur. So, despite what has just been said or referred to, with that context, this nevertheless is used. in the previous paragraph also, this nevertheless is used to indicate this situation. There is the real possibility that the value of imports of electric vehicles and electric vehicle subsystems will will match the oil import bill today and leave us no better off than today, right. So, look into the next paragraph. Next paragraph says that, but there is another option towards large scale EV adoption. He is suggesting something else, but there is another option. Previously in the previous paragraph, what he told? In the previous paragraph, he talked about importing subsystems, why that is not apt or why that is not viable in our country. He came to the conclusion also, leave that para. Now he is suggesting something else, but there is another option towards large scale EV adoption. The key elements of EV technology are available today at the right prices for several types of vehicles widely used in the Indian market. Instead of imports, he is suggesting some other alternative. But there is another option towards large scale EV adoption. The key elements of EV technology are available today at the right prices for several types of vehicles widely used in the Indian market. With an innovative, coordinated and market oriented effort by industry and the government, certain EVs can be produced in India today. Adoption can be rolled out rapidly in a fully market driven manner. So, what he is suggesting is, don't go for imports. In our country, key elements of EV technology are available. Please promote them. So, with market driven approach, promote locally made this electric vehicles technology, whatever is available in our country. In these specific segments, India could attain a globally competitive leadership position in 3 to 5 years. Instead of imports, if India promotes aggressively with market driven approach, India could attain the globally competitive position in 3 to 5 years. This effort will simultaneously encourage local IP generation. This effort will simultaneously, we discussed previously, simultaneously means happening or being done at exactly the same place. Bomb blasts occurred simultaneously. Concurrently means at the same time exactly. Here happening or existing at the same time. This example will be clear to you. The two super hit movies are being telecast concurrently by rival TV channels. So, here you see, in these specific segments, India could attain a globally competitive leadership position in 3 to 5 years. This effort will simultaneously encourage local intellectual property generation. All of you are familiar with intellectual property. Intellectual property is basically talking about patents, copyrights, trademarks. So, if you are inventing something, you will have right over it. That is a patent, or you can say intellectual property. So, if you are inventing some low cost electric vehicle, that will be your patented product and you can expand it across the world, right. So, here let us go back to the passage. This effort will simultaneously encourage local intellectual property generation and the manufacture of most EV subsystems or substantial parts of them. India can move towards a substitution of oil imports with locally produced energy and EVs including subsystems. In the previous paragraph, he talked about when we are importing subsystems of electric vehicles, then we will be in no better position. We are paying for oil imports now, we will be paying for electric vehicle imports. But if we use the existing technology and develop it, then we will be benefited. India can move towards substitution of oil imports with locally produced energy and this electric vehicles, right. So, apart from these intrinsic benefits of early adoption of EVs, intrinsic, what is the meaning of intrinsic? Intrinsic means basic characteristic or extremely important. So, intrinsic means essential nature of a thing, basic characteristics and extremely important. So, essential nature or basic characteristic of particular thing. So, I gave 3 examples to make you understand intrinsic. Diamonds have got high intrinsic value. Geography is the intrinsic part of school curriculum and paper currency has got no intrinsic value. So, here apart from these intrinsic benefits or you can say inbuilt benefits of the decision with regard to early adoption of electric vehicles, it forces the simultaneous growth of renewable energy production in India. So, simultaneously renewable energy production will also increase. This slew of reasons, means this many number of reasons. He gave so many reasons for this. So, this slew of reasons, slew means this a large number of quantity or something. He gave several reasons, that is why he used this slew of reasons. This slew of reasons should drive us to single-mindedly pursue immediate efforts in a mission mode. So, single-minded means with lot of concentration on one particular thing. So, concentrating on only one aim, that is a single-minded persuasion. Persuasion means chasing something. So, there is a single-minded persuasion of this aspect will definitely have so many benefits. So, this slew of reasons should drive us to single-mindedly pursue immediate efforts in a mission mode to enable early adoption of electric vehicles in India. So, this article is very strong about adoption of electric vehicles in our country. Right. So, look at the next paragraph. A laissez-faire attitude will negatively impact the indigenous manufacturing of India's future automobiles and subsystems as well as India's import bill. What is meant by laissez-faire attitude? There are two meanings of this word. Laissez-faire means unwilling to get involved or influence other people's activities. This laissez-faire attitude means unwilling to get involved. If the government is not willing to get involved, then we will lose the ultimate benefit. So, laissez-faire means, one example you see, the company was into the problems before he became CEO and the situation further worsened with his laissez-faire attitude. Then another meaning is, this is businesses would be free to develop without the involvement of state or government. So, here laissez-faire market. So, laissez-faire policy has dominated American politics during the second half of 20th century. So, laissez-faire is the hallmark of capitalist economy where businesses are free to grow without much involvement from central or state governments. So, the meaning here is this meaning, this is totally unwilling to get involved. So, a laissez-faire attitude will negatively impact the indigenous manufacturing. Indigenous, that is particular, or you can say that is existing in a place or country naturally. So, please look at the example. Thanks to Green Revolution of 1960s, we became self-sufficient with the indigenous production of food grains. More than 100 million tons of rice, more than 90 million tons of wheat we are producing. So, this is indigenous production. So, naturally existing in a place or country is indigenous. Another example is there are several indigenous tribes in our country. Northeastern part of our country is meant for indigenous tribes. Right. So, a laissez-faire attitude will negatively impact the indigenous manufacturing of India's future automobiles and subsystems as well as India's import bill. It will also slow down the integration of renewable energy sources into a grid at scale. At scale means at large perspective. If you think at it from larger perspective, normally you call it at scale. So, businesses to succeed, some policy to succeed, it is inevitable that must be at scale, right. So, here if government is not taking much initiative, then totally here it will also slow down the integration of renewable energy sources into the grid at scale. So, the total final point of this article is here. Solar energy costs are coming down, that is one aspect. but the biggest problem is with regard to storage. So, the right solution is massive adoption of electric vehicles. For that, do not import technology from abroad, please generate indigenously. We have lot of technology available in our country, please generate that with indigenous policies. So, electric vehicles are going to be the future that will solve several problems as per this article. So, with this we came to the end of this comprehension ability discussion, and here tomorrow we are going to deliberate on Canada and beyond business line article, and I would like to tell you two more points. One student is recommending with regard to indicating the meaning in the same PPT. So, that we are trying, and the second one is after 51st lecture we will introduce some more difficult articles, and the third point is some students are asking about introducing questions and answers along with passage. That probably we may look into it probably from July 1st. So, the first stage is let us go like this up to 50th comprehension. Then 51 onwards some difficult comprehension passages will be introduced, and subsequently from July we are thinking that we will introduce these questions and answers along with this comprehension passage. And please react to my suggestion initially what I have made, that is with regard to 1 day English grammar, 3 days comprehension, 1 day current affairs banking awareness. So, these things I would like to plan if all of you agree to it. Otherwise, I will continue with this 5 days of comprehension from Monday to Friday, because I am not finding excess time to go with the other aspects at this juncture. Right friends, with this let us conclude this comprehension and vocabulary for today. Please do join tomorrow. Thank you.